She went straight to all the things she could have done better. And the program director stopped her right there and said, look, brilliant. It's great that you're reflecting and responding on all the things that could have gone better. But can I give you a bit of advice in order to navigate this profession? Because if you don't look after yourself and really give yourself a break, it can be a challenging profession. But she said, please always do your best to consider the positives first. But being able to name what we find challenging and then approaching the right people to support us with it, that not only will make you feel more comfortable and confident in your practice, but you'll build a better relationship with the wider teaching team as well. They'll see you as someone who's just got high agency, who is values the profession, values the kids, and values themselves. And there's a real strength to that, I feel. The best people to talk to are the ones that have a willingness and a hunger to learn from other people as well.
Welcome to Thinking Deeply About Primary Education, the podcast that makes time and space to think about pedagogy, teaching and learning, professional development, anything of interest to time-poor but enthusiasm-rich primary teachers. This week, I'm joined by Baasit Siddiqui to explore reflection and what it looks like to be a really reflective practitioner. As we're beginning almost a time of reflection at the end of the academic year in the United Kingdom, I thought this would be the perfect way to begin a series of episodes where we look at the reflections of our regular contributors while fielding questions from listeners. And so Baasit's book about reflection, Not My Finest Lesson, 52 Mistakes and Miscalculations, is out in October. October is quite a while away, but I think one to watch out for when we get to the new academic year. I suppose the only news, don't forget to follow the newsletter, thinkingdeeply.info, for weekly links, news from the world of the podcast and different opportunities. Without further ado, let's spend some time thinking deeply about primary education. So Baasit, it's lovely to see you today. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you. I'm braving the heat. It's not overly hot at the moment. I think we've got a few days of 30 degrees coming. Look at me, we're 10 seconds in and I'm already talking about the weather. Fingers crossed it will become more engaging as we go on. Fingers crossed. But yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, I think a lot of our listeners live in the British Isles, so they're going to be thinking about the weather as well, because it is unseasonably hot, and I think actually hotter than Europe at the moment. So fingers crossed for some cool breeze soon. So it's fantastic to have you here. I think we often start with a little bit about who our guests are and where they come from. So I thought maybe a little bit about your backstory would be fantastic to almost set the scene for today.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. So my name is Baasit Siddiqui. I've worked in education for close to 20 years. In fact, it'll be 20 years September. And I trained as a secondary school teacher in IT, business and computer science, worked for 10 years as a full-time teacher. And through a number of different things that happened personally, professionally, I set up my own business just under 10 years ago called Siddiqui Education. And it is a real mixed bag of things that I do. Where I really started from, though, as I started my business, was to deliver workshops for children in typically underserved communities. So pre-NEET children, FSM children struggling in different settings. And it was always around kind of character education and project-based learning. And what I do with regards to that is leverage the experiences that I've had in education, working with lots of different children in different backgrounds, coupled with a random experience that I've had over the last decade, in fact, 13 years, having been on a television show in the UK on Channel 4. And although I do a light touch on that, it is a unique experience. The kids are always quite intrigued by it, the adults as well. But what it's allowed me to do is just use my platform to celebrate the brilliant work that's being done in schools, to deliver my own workshops. And it has been a really interesting and enjoyable journey where I deliver workshops in schools, but I also do bits of teacher training, teacher celebration, hosting, and everything in between, if I'm honest with you. It's been a very intriguing and fun journey. And I'm very blessed to be able to just go in and celebrate educators and support kids just to help to realize their potential more than anything.
I'm familiar with the concept of the TV show, but I've never actually seen it. I don't really have. I don't really watch live television that much. I'm supposed our viewing habits have changed. But Andy from teacher writers,
Yeah.
sent me a couple of manuscripts, and among them was yours, which was I mean, I will definitely butcher the title, but it was about 52 mistakes. What was the full concept of the book?
Yeah, so thank you. I'm currently in the process of putting together a book. It should be out in October, and it's called Not My Finest Lesson: The 52 Mistakes Every Educator Can Learn From. And it's a honest and super reflective insight in my experiences across the education landscape, both first and foremost at the chalk face, day to day, day in, day out, working with children, and what I learned through that, through the mistakes and the reflections. But it's also brought together my experiences running this education business and interacting with children in a different setting, having to combine the entrepreneurial mindset with the educator mindset. And really, within the book, and it's not the crux of the book, but within it is a real realization of the incredible skills that we as educators have that we may not necessarily think about day to day. And it's also allowed me to share my insights with regards to the work that I do with the TES Institute as a trainer of teachers as well. So I have a big portfolio of teachers who are looking to get QTS, and I learn so much from them. Obviously, I'm there to give them insights and help them build their portfolio of evidence. But I don't know if you find this, Kieran, our kids constantly shift year in, year out. And it almost feels every September we're learning something new because of the situation our kids are growing up in, whether that's the impact of media, the impact of politics, the impact of society. We always have to kind of refine ourselves and reflect on our craft. So the 52 mistakes essentially are the fundamentals that have helped me to navigate this world of education. And hopefully there's insights in there for anyone kind of new on their journey or just wanting that recognition that they're trying their best, and we're all kind of learning. And to be able to articulate what's not gone well and learn from it is a powerful message, I believe.
And there are almost two reasons why I sort of that really stood out to me and thought actually I'm going to try and expedite this opportunity if possible. Was obviously I think we're at that time of year, certainly within the English education system and the British education systems, where now is the time for that reflection ahead of next year. Absolutely. But also I recently had a guest who, or someone had asked to be a guest who said, well, I've really struggled with X, Y, or Z. I don't think I'm the best person to talk about it. And actually, for me, that kind of reflection is more important because I don't think the podcast space is it's not like social media. It's not like Instagram where everything is perfect and you've got this idealized version of the world. What we want are real teachers talking about their experiences and taking the time to reflect. So I thought if I had the chance to talk to you about your thoughts and reflection, because obviously you spent a lot of time thinking about that, then I thought that would be the perfect way to almost start to round off the year before we move into pastures new for the summer.
Oh, I love it. And I really appreciate you bringing me on at that stage as well. And having written the book and just the conversations I've had, it's definitely made me more reflective and think deeper about my role as an educator, the ups and the downs. And it's led to some really enjoyable conversations as well, and just different takes on just the day-to-day nuances of education. So yeah, really, really looking forward to it. So thank you for having me on.
I think reflection is often talked about as if it's like almost like a neat professional habit, but I think it's normally a bit messier. What does reflection look like for you, and in particular at the end of a difficult day in school?
I'd be lying if I said that I didn't reflect. And whether it's an educator thing or whether it's a human trait, we're constantly having interactions and engagements where we will, whether it's for a long amount of time or just a brief moment where we'll just think, how did that go? You and I will finish this podcast and we think, yeah, was that all right? Should I have mentioned this? Should I have done this? And I think to reflect is to be human, but it's the process that you follow in terms of how to do it. And I got some amazing advice years ago. I was shadowing one of the program directors for the TES Institute who'd come with me to come and observe a trainee teacher. And this young lady had done a really good job, and we were in the interview process, and we asked, how do you think the lesson went? And she went straight to all the things she could have done better. And the program director stopped her right there and said, look, brilliant. It's great that you're reflecting and responding on all the things that could have gone better, but can I give you a bit of advice in order to navigate this profession? Because if you don't look after yourself and really give yourself a break, it can be a challenging profession. But she said, please always do your best to consider the positives first. What went well first before you go into the what I could have done better. Really make a conscious effort, be explicit with what went well. And that takes some training, I think. I think you have to remind yourself to do that over and over again. But I think subtly that gives you permission to remind yourself that you're doing really good work. So for me, reflection, I completely understand the power in it, and I'm so grateful that I'm this reflective practitioner, because I know every time I go back into a setting and do a bit of work, I've done something to tweak it ever so slightly just to make it a little bit better for the children I'm serving. But it's the way that you approach it, and it is just that self-development, trying to do better by these kids, but start with the positives first.
Do you have anything that actually reminds you, any triggers or anything that sort of says, okay, I actually need to be more positive right now?
I've got to remind myself that I'm 20 years into this now, and you develop this toolkit that just becomes so automatic, and it doesn't take 20 years to refine that. You just continually doing it. I think, is it Malcolm Gladwell, he says that 10,000 hours to master something, and I think people forget about the 9,999 to get there. You're not the same person when you start out. And I would say when it comes to the positive sides, I think it's more of an awareness. When you first start and you're in the heat of the moment, whether it's a challenge with behavior, whether it's you've done a back and forth with some children in terms of the questions, and they haven't really got to where you're trying to get to, and you're trying to feed it. Each time you do that, you're just pushing forward a little bit and adding an additional layer to your toolkit, and you just become much more conscious of that toolkit that you're developing, and it becomes very, very empowering. Looking at the statistics and the rate at which we lose new teachers as well, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it's approximately within the first 3 to 4 years, where if we can just get them to that point, our new teachers, they do get an additional layer of, they've been there, they've done it, they've just starting to develop this toolkit. And there's a real strength with regards to that. Now, I'd say with regards to a practical bit of guidance for anyone kind of new and thinking, yes, all right, for you, 20 years in, it's easy to say that. I would say for me, what has worked really, really well is some form of documentation, whether that's journaling a little bit with regards to it, and everyone's different. They might add a little bit into their lesson plans or their planners. Some might just want to do a little voice note to themselves when something's gone well or something hasn't gone well. But I would say some form of reflection where you can document it is really, really powerful. I'm in the process of putting together a quadrant that I'm really excited about. And because going through this journey and just working with so many teachers, I think the more deliberate you are in terms of bottling what you're good at, what you need to improve on, who's there to support you with regards to it, it helps you to create a mindset where it's okay if I'm not great at this at the moment, but I acknowledge it. I know that I'm trying to do better for the children I serve and just for myself. But being able to name what we find challenging and then approaching the right people to support us with it, that not only will make you feel more comfortable and confident in your practice, but you'll build a better relationship with the wider teaching team as well. They'll see you as someone who's just got high agency, who is values the profession, values the kids, and values themselves. And there's a real strength to that, I feel.
In my experience, like when I write things down, it's almost like releasing a valve. I think,
Yes.
you know, if you're becoming overwhelmed with something, I often find, well, let's get it down on paper as quickly as possible. And like you've said, if you have, you know, what the issue is, and it's more importantly, who can help me with this, that's almost like that is a real release for, you know, potential triggers for like reasonably intense stress, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I really want to make it clear to the audience as well that these things aren't easy to do. It comes with time and just a level of confidence and comfort in yourself as well, where you think, okay, I've not done great on that. And I talk about this a lot in the book, where when I first started teaching, I would have hated to be that person who put my hand up and said that I need help. I think a lot of people, especially when you start out as an educator, you almost feel that you are that authority in the room, and that you almost have to be this all-seeing, all-knowing person within there. And with that comes a layer of almost like a shield, where you feel that, I feel a bit uncomfortable asking for help here. But the profession itself is challenging. And I know for a fact that 20 years into the profession, the kids that I work with now have completely different needs, and I have to work with them in a completely different way. So we're always learning. You just become more comfortable with understanding that you need to learn and knowing that you need to seek help with regards to it. Two simple examples I'll give you very, very quickly. Whenever I do a session with a school, with one of my workshops, each school is different. I work with kids in coastal areas, in a city, everything in between, ex-mining towns, and each one is a microcosm of their local community. So for me to go in and assume that every child and every setting is going to respond to me in exactly the same way, no chance. So I have to do my due diligence and have just subtle conversations before the session, whether it's a few days before or I arrive in half an hour or 45 minutes early just to get the lay of the land. I found that to be so useful. And a lot of my trainee teachers through the Institute, they have to do what you call a second school experience. So they need at least 20 to 30 days going into a completely new setting. And often the teachers I have, they've worked in the same setting for up to 10 years and they're looking just to get QTS. So the idea of going to a new setting is terrifying for them. And I say, look, those first few weeks, you've built relationships with the kids at your school, and I completely understand that. I'm afraid you won't be able to lean on relationships as much as you would do. So do your best to do your homework, find out what are the school system strategies, the language that the school uses, the environment that those kids are growing up in. And it just means that you've done your due diligence. You're at least one step ahead when it comes to actually engaging with those kids. You're still going to have your challenges, but you've done everything in your power to make sure that you are ready to serve those children.
Think back to my own training and I wish I'd been that prepared.
And I think it is really interesting because I touch on it in the book, and it's hindsight, isn't it? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. You've been there, you've done that, you've seen the challenges that you have to almost be prepped for if you want to do right by those kids. And my first mistake is the book is all done a bit tongue-in-cheek, but there's always a sincere, serious message to it. I liken it to an episode of Scrubs. I was a big Scrubs fan growing up, where there's enough silliness and humor within there, but married throughout are serious messages. And the first mistake is around the idea of why I've called it 52 mistakes as opposed to 39 mistakes, because it's one for each of the weeks. And one of the greatest misconceptions I had was that you start and stop in the classroom on that September through to July, and the 9 till 3, half 3. I mean, I'll be honest with you, the first couple of months into the profession, I was excited about working in a profession where that's the case. Now, you know, and I know, and your listeners know, nothing could be further from the truth. Teaching is all encompassing, but there are strategies you can use. There are things that you can use in preparation you can do to make your life a lot easier as well. So it's kind of, I do my best to try and align the book with what are the needs of teachers right now, new teachers, the more experienced teachers. You can signpost to newer teachers and give them this book as a light touch way for them to try and tackle some serious messages.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Whenever you talk about such serious subject matter, you can't take yourself too seriously, can you? I think it often helps to have that little bit of, like you said, tongue in cheek. And it really came through when I read the book. You know, I think whenever, you know, when you're talking about your experiences, you could see that was the approach you were taking. I think quite often the things that we should reflect on are probably some of the most difficult things to remember. You know, it's easier just to push those memories away.
Completely.
How can we as teachers talk more openly about our mistakes and the uncertainty, and without feeling like, you know, I think you almost alluded to it, without feeling like professionally diminished or exposed in some way?
I don't want to say that I encourage teachers to remind them of their why. I think they know what their why is. But when you're in the day-to-day grind of everything and you're doing your absolute best, you can not forget it, but also that becomes a quieter voice because there's so much going on. And I think where I found that I feel that I can broach those types of topics, the ones that where you feel a bit cringe inside, that, oh, I've really let that kid down, or X, Y, and Z, is when I know that my intentions, above all, the umbrella intention is to serve those kids and to try and do right by those children and that school community. If I know in my heart that I'm doing my best for those kids, I feel a little bit better if I do mess up, and I feel more comfortable with that. And what I have found is that the more that I open up to my mistakes and hold my hands up and just honestly apologize, it works out for the better, because it won't compound. It won't be something that reaches a point where it overwhelms you, and you create a habit where it just feels more comfortable just to share what you're finding challenging as well. And I think there is an encouragement to leaders out there as well, and I meet so many different leaders across the education space. Some articulate that they do it well, some may need a little bit of a reminder with regards to it, but for them to model that vulnerability as well. So if that's modeled from the top, I think that that's really powerful. We're living in a society now, especially with where we're going with regards to tech, with AI, all of those things, where no one can profess to know everything. We really, really can't. And where the jobs market's going, where kids' data's going, what tech the kids are using outside of school. And for us to say that we have knowledge of all of that, it's just not true. So we're almost in this age where to be vulnerable, to be fallible, and to model that, we have a great opportunity here to do that. And I found with the experiences that I've had with the young people I work with, and this might be a tech background, I worked in computer science and the technology was constantly being updated. And I just got very comfortable with knowing that when it came to the practical side, wasn't necessarily the strongest person in the room. You're talking to about A-level kids, some GCSE kids, even some Key Stage 3 kids who were just little prodigies with regards to what they could do with the tech. Doesn't mean that they knew how to learn. It doesn't mean that they understood the curriculum. So it was still incumbent upon me to guide them through that to ensure that they got the best out of it. But I felt very comfortable with holding my hands up and going, look, so-and-so's doing this brilliantly here. Would you mind modeling this with the class? And with that just comes a better synergy, a better relationship with the kids as well, where they know that you're still there as that expert in the room when it comes to getting them to develop their skills in alignment with the curriculum. But if someone knows a little bit more about that and has a bit of a hobby or interest or skill in something, celebrate it as much as you can do.
Did you have a way to try and like spot like almost like the best faith actors or the really good faith? I mean, I'm trying to think. Every teacher I've ever met wants to help other people, so everyone's going to be supportive in some way. But some people are particularly good at taking people under their wing and helping them. Have you ever noticed any patterns, like ways to spot those people who are really good mentors?
I think they're experts in their field. I really do. I think that they've been around the block to some degree, where they've been there, they've done it, they've tested things and failed themselves. And what's the worst that's happened? They're still there, they're still doing it, and it's made them better. And every person I've had and every mentor who's tried to guide me have learnt from the mistakes I'm about to make and feel so comfortable and confident articulating it. And it's the best kind of conversations at that point, when you're able to comfortably have those conversations, knowing that you both have something to learn from each other. And I think that's the most interesting thing. The best people, when it comes, whether it's in the education space, whether it's in the speaking space or the entrepreneurial space that I'm in, the best people to talk to are the ones that have a willingness and a hunger to learn from other people as well. They are lifelong learners, essentially. They have enough humility to know that we're in this life once, and we've got something to learn from every single person. And case in point, I've had 3 different sessions this week with kids from different demographics, and you're learning something new from each of them. You're learning about a challenge they may have. You're learning about a new viewpoint they may have about something where you took for granted, and you may have had a misconception about something. So we're constantly always just evolving and learning. But going back to your question, the people that I've found who become the best mentors are the ones that are lifelong learners in themselves and comfortable with that.
What you've given us is you've given us almost like the disposition that we need to have, almost some things that, some systems we can put in place, and then those people who can support that. And I think there you've almost got like your base of here's how to be a really refractive practitioner. And so that no matter what gets thrown your way, because like I say, we're getting towards the summer, we'll all decompress, and then we'll hit the ground running in September. 2 days for training, and then we're back into it straight away, aren't we?
Absolutely. And we really are. And I think it'd be very important to make sure that every educator who's listening, you care. If anyone who's listening to your podcast right now on the run up to the summer, or maybe midway through the holiday as well, they care about their own professional development. To some degree, potentially we're preaching to the choir with regards to your audience. They're hungry for knowledge. They're hungry to learn. All I'd just preface that with is 2 things. Of course, look after yourself and look after your own well-being. There's so many different ways to do that. In my talks, I profess not to be a well-being expert. I know what works for me. I've got anecdotes galore in terms of the things that have supported me in this long educational entrepreneurial journey. But one of the big things is just to really look after yourself. Take a walk in nature. Just when you do reflect, I find that a nice environment to do it in. Going for a walk. If I've got a particular problem, I go for a walk, just let myself drift off, and then by the time I get back, I've got a different perspective to it as well.
And so BaasitSiddiqui.com is the website if anyone is interested in learning more. Am I right? Yes.
You looked at me and then I go, yeah, is it? Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah, BaasitSiddiqui.com. The workshops that I do, Let's Thrive.digital as well. So BaasitSiddiqui.com and Let's Thrive.digital.
It's been an absolute pleasure. So all I say to do is say thank you very much for joining me.
It's been a sincere privilege and pleasure. If I was going to ask and encourage and invite the audience just to do one thing, and I do this within my keynotes, if they were going to reflect on the moment this academic year that they're most proud of, what would it be? Stop and smell the roses before you do any kind of reflection on your practice. Please have that conversation with yourself. Which moment are you most proud of? And just remember that you're in it for the right reasons. You do good work. So thank you for everything that you do as well. So sorry to shoehorn your goodbyes there. I just wanted to really mention that.
No, I think that's a really powerful way to finish it. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And everyone at home, until next time, thanks for listening.